Maddie Victor says, will we extend George Kittle before the start of the season? Anthony asks, any updates on Kittle? Okay, let's talk about Kittle. This is the timeline I've heard from Kittle. He and his representatives spoke with the 49ers in February. They were far off. John Lynch talks and says they're working towards some type of a sweet spot or compromise. About a week later, Mike Silver comes out and says he talked to George Kittle's agent and said they're still far off and Kittle needs to reset the market by a big amount. The next week, Daniel Jeremiah says Kittle's worth closer to $20 million than 15. And then last week, we hear from Matt Barrows, who's extremely connected and well-respected, that George Kittle is eventually going to sign for $13 million. Well, this seems like there's a disconnect there. Daniel Jeremiah, who's connected nationally, agents, teams, everyone, says closer to 20 than 15. And then Matt Barrows says probably it's going to end up being 13. The way I look at it is if it were really going to end up being 13, Kittle would have signed by now. Really? What's he waiting for? If that's the best he could do, he would just sign by now. But the fact that Daniel Jeremiah said he could get closer to 20, I think that Kittle at least is going to have to wait until the very end, not settle early, probably not participate in training camp, and maybe accept something before the season starts, or just play out his rookie deal and see what he can get next year. I don't, the report, and I respect Matt Barrows. I'm sure he heard it from someone in the know, as he said, that Buckner eventually is going to get $13 million. But to me, that sounds like wishful thinking from the 49ers part. The Niners feeling that they have ultimate leverage and Kittle will eventually cave. But I don't know. From what the agent said to Mike Silver, it doesn't sound like Kittle wants his agent to cave. It sounds like the directive that Kittle has given his agent is reset the market big time. And not just for me, but for all tight ends. Not just for Kittle. For every tight end in the future, because I don't understand why the NFL has colluded against the tight end position. Who decided tight ends aren't valuable? On the 49ers, Kittle is the number one wide receiver who also is their number one blocker in the run game. Why does that make him less valuable than a wide receiver who can't block? I don't understand that. If you look at the franchise tag values, quarterback at the top, then you got wide receiver and defensive end right underneath that, followed by corner, and then way at the bottom is running back and tight end, like neck and neck below linebacker and offensive line. Why? I don't get that. Doesn't seem to make any sense. It seems like a tradition that the NFL has had going on for a while that they don't really want to change because it saves them money. It's collusion. So Kittle really should hold out for 17, 18 because there's no reason that the best tight end should be settling for running back money. Well, I don't get that. Well, I don't get that at all. Could someone explain that in the comment section? What is it about tight ends that are inherently less valuable than wide receivers? Because it seems like a good tight end is more rare and more impactful than a good wide receiver. A good wide receiver isn't going to help you that much in the running game. He's not. Because most tight ends aren't very good. Yeah, but the great ones are. So they're even more rare. They're even more valuable. A great tight end like Kittle, I mean, I don't have to tell you, Niner fans will, when you're not talking about money, you'll talk about Kittle as the best player in the league, right? But when it comes to money, he's just a tight end, though. No, he's the most impactful player on the 49ers. He should hold out for a lot. The whole idea that he's going to take 13, if that's the only leverage he had, the negotiation would have been over by now. I can't imagine the Niners' initial offer was less than 13. Do you think the Niners' initial offer was less than 13? I bet it was 13-ish. Do the Niners think that Kittle's just going to cave entirely? I don't think so. Lynch said they're going to find a sweet spot. I don't see how Kittle takes anything less than 15. It seems like Lynch and the 49ers have kind of been an 11th hour deadline business type of group. So I don't know. Unless the Niners give Kittle what he wants before training camp, I could see Kittle holding out of training camp. I mean, wouldn't you? Way too much at stake. You could get hurt. He keeps himself in good shape. It would be kind of out of his character to hold out, but I think he'd come back and play in the season. Why can't he hold out? Niners can pay Kittle 17. Chiefs can't pay Kelsey. Yeah, it's kind of like a race to see who pays who first, right? Because if the Niners paid Kittle now, then Kelsey's going to be even more expensive. And if the Chiefs agree to something with Kelsey now, then Kittle will be even more expensive. How many teams have a tight end like George Kittle, and how easy is it to replace him? You can't replace him with one guy. You have to replace him with multiple players.